Wonkyface is wild. It's another WoW story, so you gotta brace yourself for that. Again, I may get this wrong because this is approaching a decade ago now. So Wonkyface is a very similar story. There was someone advertising a big role-playing event. Now, to set the scene for this, I may get the name wrong on this, but at this point in time, on role-playing servers in World of Warcraft, the famous Broken Doll series has just ended. Now, if you don't know what that is, it was a server-wide roleplay event, like a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, but for many, many, many people, that had just ended, and it had ended with such popularity and fanfare that one of the authors behind it had been hired by the company behind the game to then write the game for them. I believe that's correct. I'm not too sure on the details. I'm hearing all of this secondhand. But, so famously, the ecosystem of roleplay servers right now is everyone wants to do a Broken Doll. Now, I foolishly see someone advertising one of these, just we're gonna do a big meeting to discuss this huge event that we're doing kind of thing. And I foolishly see this and I think, yeah, right, I'll visit that. Now again, my thought process is, I'll participate. As you'll come to see, I will eventually own this event, in a similar twist of fate to our last story. Highly unfortunate, but let's continue. I decide that I'm gonna attend this event, and I do. Now this event has been advertised for a certain time, and a certain location inside of the world of the game. I arrive there, and can see no one. Now I start getting whispers from a few people here and there, discussing like why we can't see each other. And I end up having to make a channel to communicate with these people. Because there is a thing in World of Warcraft referred to as phasing. It is the concept that the way I see the world is different from the way another character will see the world. It's used for story elements and preserving isolated areas. The area that the meeting was set to take place in, this big server-wide event, was suffering from a phasing divide. So none of the participants could see one another. Now I quickly put together a way to communicate with everyone. We made some chat channels. Me and a friend, we'll call him Lee. Me and a friend named Lee kind of put together a chat channel and communicated with these people. We're gonna have to move this entire event because this area is being phased, even though this is the area we advertised. So we try to move this entire event up one. Kind of put it basically a block away would be the way to think of this. Now the mastermind behind this whole thing finally shows up. His name is Wonkyface. It's not actually his name, but if you ever hear me refer to Wonkyface, it's this person. And he shows up, and I watch him go zooming down into his phasing. Don't dox. No. I watch him go zooming down into this area that's all phased. So I quickly message him. We've had to move your event because you scheduled it in an area that is not possible to be used. And he messages me back, where is everyone? And I'm like, oh, we're just a block around the corner because the area you picked is not applicable. We can't use it. You know what he sends me back? You know what he sends me back? This fucking face. I will come to dread this face. I get sent this wonky face in response to saying, oh, the area you chose is not acceptable. He then tells me, but I wanted to do it here, wonky face. And yes, I am going to vocalize every time he uses the emote wonky face. I then get the message, but I wanted to do it here, wonky face. And I say, well, that's fine, but you literally cannot. You literally cannot do this. It is not possible. The game will not allow you to do this. You will have to come to a different area. And this begins a arguing match where I have to encourage this man to attend his own event, which is a wild concept to begin with, but yes, that's something we have to do. Eventually we get him up there. And so when you're role-playing inside of World of Warcraft, typically characters just kind of stand around and they get speech bubbles above their head of dialogue. Role-players tend to have mods to make the character limit unlimited. This can mean that when you're role-playing, you can very often see someone standing around for a long period of time before they post several paragraphs of roleplay. That is what I thought was happening as Wonkyface stood at the altar in front of hundreds of people. Now again, this is the height of this exact kind of event being insanely popular. We have literally hundreds of people here. I'm probably exaggerating, I'm sure it was probably like 70 people, but in my mind it's hundreds of people. In his mind it's hundreds of people. And I'm standing there thinking, he's about to post his story idea or he's about to start dialoguing or something like that. No, he's just standing there. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, but everyone takes their time. We've reached the point where people are starting to leave because he is standing there saying nothing after encouraging so many people to attend this meeting. Now I realize he's frozen. I realize Wonkyface is completely frozen. And I realize why. I don't think he accounted for the anxiety of performing in front of people. So I message him. And I'm like, dude, they're waiting. You are really gonna have to pull something out of the hat here. And what does he give me? What do you think he gives me? All right, I'll accept it in chat. What do you think he messages me back when I say like, oh, you really need to say something? Quiche gets it in one. Gives me a Wonkyface. Which confirms the fact for me that he's not... Aaron's got it as well. So it confirms the fact for me that he's not typing, he's not preparing his script, he's doing nothing. He's messaging me a Wonkyface. So I say to him, here's my Skype address, add me, message me literally everything you have about this, I'm going to perform it for you. And he adds me on Skype. And funnily enough, he looks a lot like Tommy Wiseau. He's got a picture for a profile picture. He looks like Tommy Wiseau. Not to rag on the guy for his physicality at all. I just want to say he looks like Tommy Wiseau. So he adds me on Skype. Now, the reason I added him on Skype is because you cannot have unlimited character. You can't copy and paste out of DMs inside of World of Warcraft. So I was saying copy and paste me everything on Skype and I'll perform it. As it were, I'll perform your script for you. So he's added me on Skype. And we're talking outside of the game. Well, I'm talking to him outside of the game. I'm saying, bro, message me what you've got, and we'll do this event together. Like, I think I can help you, but people are starting to leave and they're getting pissed, and this isn't great. Now, what do you think is the message he sends to me on Skype? After adding me so he can send me the script and the details of what he's going to do with this event, what do you think the message is that he sends me on Skype? Yeah, Quiche, you got it. He sends me a Wonkyface. So that really puts the nail in the coffin of, this guy has literally nothing. This guy has literally nothing. He's invited what I foresee as hundreds of people to this event. He's put it in an area you literally cannot reach. We've had to negotiate with him to step up to his own crowd, and he has literally nothing to perform for them. So meanwhile, I'm talking to Lee, who is an old RP buddy. And we're like, this is fucked, we have to do something. So the concept behind the event is the idea that like chaotic evil characters are meeting to discuss how to get more powerful. Super simple stuff. Very, very basic. So me and Lee say, let's just improv. And we start bickering like supervillains of like, oh, well, if we're going to do this to become so powerful, it's going to be risky. And oh, you never risk anything. You're such a careful, shallow person. Oh, well, you're not brave enough. And we start arguing in character and we stir the crowd up a little bit. And suddenly people are role-playing. Suddenly people are actually role-playing together. We don't have a succinct story for what's happening, but people are starting to be entertained. People aren't funneling out the way they were when there was a frozen man there. And we're getting a bit of activity. And that's really good, right? That's really good. We're starting to get a bit of activity here. Now, Wonkyface messages me. Doesn't talk in chat where his group can hear. Doesn't talk in chat where the event can hear him. He messages me. Can I take over? And I'm like, fuck yeah, man. I didn't sign up to run this, so I would love for you to take over. Yeah, absolutely. I say, yeah, just do your thing, man. Like, we'll step aside. We'll let you have the... And I actually I do a little bit of improv roleplay to, you know, what say you? And point at him, that kind of thing. Just a bit of performance to push him into the limelight. And he stands there frozen. And people are getting bored again. Some people are just RPing in the corner with each other because the story isn't here and the event sucks. And some people are going back to leaving. He's frozen again. I message him one more time, like, I mean, you wanted to take over, like, do your scripts. Like, what have you got? Tell people why you're here. So what do you think he messages me back? Just real quick, after he's been like, can I take over? And I've been like, yeah, man, here you go. Here's the ball. Here's the ball. Take your shot. What do you think he messages me back after that? Because it's a ripper. This one's a ripper. This one's an absolute ripper. I despise this man. Oh, Doc, it's gonna get so much worse. It's gonna get so much worse. Hey, if you guessed that after all this, he messages me a wonky face, you would be correct. So at this point, me and Lee have told this boy that he is in timeout. We have told this boy, you are not doing anything, we'll deal with you after the event, but we have to preserve these people's time. People got up that morning in certain time zones. I did, because I'm Australian. People gave their night to this. People put something forward here. It's like going to a D&D session and the DM is just watching TV in the other room. It's fucked. You don't do that to people. So me and Lee, we go back to improving. We keep things light. We go as much as we can. Yes, genuinely, it's triggered. To this day, I still feel like a little pang of anger when I see it. But yes, back then it was legitimately triggering. We'll get to why this story goes wildly off the rails. Now, as I said, we've put this guy in timeout. We've done our own little event, which, as crappy as it was, we weren't prepared for this, so we did okay. And things are winding down now. We've done a couple hours of roleplay. Everyone seems fairly satisfied. I'm pretty sure I got in a drinking contest and then started like trying to burn someone alive. Like some weird, chaotic, evil roleplay shit like that. Just some dumb stuff. Just to have fun. Everyone's filtering out. And we still have Wonkyface, who to this day has not moved. He has not moved. He's still standing stone still in the exact same spot we put him, having not said a word. Me and Lee, so I don't often smoke, but I remember this very distinctly being a period in time I went and got a cigarette and just leaned back and smoked, because it's like, holy shit, we did this. It's like the ending of a heist movie. We pulled it off somehow. Now people are leaving. We take our boy out of our timeout, which is to say we just muted our DMs with him. Not that he messaged us anything, but we were trying to ignore him because he wasn't doing anything. And we message him, well, that's that. Have a good one, dude. And this time he actually messages me something that's not an emoji. This time he messages me, that was great. Are we doing my thing next week? And I laugh and I'm like, what are you talking about? This was your opportunity to do your thing. You can't ask people to waste more time on you. But before I can say that, before I can get that through his head, what's that on my in-game calendar? Why, he's taken the invite list for this event and he's invited every single person that was there to attend the exact same event next week in the same spot, suffering the phasing where you cannot attend an event because he does not learn. This man is incapable of learning. I message him back, are you serious? And you'll never guess what he messages me back in response to that. You'll never guess what he messages me back in response to that. Take a stab what you think he said to me. Knife. Yep, he messages me a wonky face, and then he logs off. He invites everyone to this event next week, and then he logs off. And we don't see him for a week. Now, me and Lee, I don't say this about much in my life, but when it comes to roleplay, especially, me and Lee are fucking professionals. We know what we're doing. So we realize, ride or die, we have to go to next week. We have to go to next week because it's going to be just as much of a disaster and we have to be there to fix it. And it's just as much of a disaster and we have to fix it, and we only get wonky faces in response. This pattern, the session I just told you about, this pattern continues for like a month. This same shit happens more than 4 times. And every time, me and Lee just improvise our way out of it, and we manage to make something of it. The crowd gets smaller, but it is still routinely 30 to 40 people, which if you've never managed a roleplay event, oh yeah, it was very repetitive. If you've never managed a roleplay event, it's hard to do an event for like 5 people. I would say 5 people is the cutoff period where like you're not sure how many people are having fun. 5 and below is good. We're doing this for 40 plus people on the demand of this man. On the demand of this wonky-faced man. Now, after about a month of this, some shit happens and eventually this thing dissolves. I'm not going to get into it too much because it's weird personal life stuff. But yeah, we just stopped going because fuck it, basically. And the event, to our knowledge, dies because it's being run by Wonkyface. Now, cut to years later. Now, I'm playing on a brand new character on a new server. This character has no identifying features on it whatsoever to this day. It is an isolated entity. So I had no way of knowing what was happening. And vice versa. I'm playing this character and I get a DM. And this DM is like, huh, weren't you playing other faction? I don't know who this DM's from. I'm like, I mean, yeah, I play both factions. Like, what's it to you? And this person DMing me is like, oh, I just thought you played the other faction now. I'm like, oh. Well, no, I play lots of different characters. Why? What are you talking about? Now again, no identifying features whatsoever. And this is the reason that emoji is triggering for me. No identifying features. Years later, I look like a different person. Everything is completely different. I'm like, who are you? To this guy that's messaging me. And you'll never guess what I get in response to the question, who are you? You will never guess what I get. You'll absolutely never guess the message I got. I mean, some people have already guessed it, but yep. I got a wonky face. And then that character logged off and I never saw it online again. I have no idea why this person was following me around for like multiple years without me knowing. But yeah, they somehow found me. And that's the story of Wonkyface. That is why that emoji inspires me with like full on dread. For all I know, they're watching the stream.